So unions allow you to group together, well, not group together, paste together the results of two separate queries. Right? It might be that you do one query here, you do another query there. Maybe you retrieve, products from this table and some other products from some other table, right? And if they're in any way somehow related to one another, either because they have the same columns or they have the same descriptions, whatnot, you might want to treat them as if it were a single thing, even though they were originally stored in two separate tables. Right? So to do that, you can use the union. You can say, well, fetch me the data from one table and fetch me the data from some other table, right? And then paste the two results as if it were just a single result set, right? Now, this union only would make sense, right, if you're uniting data from two tables that might have the same schema, right? That maybe the columns are the same, right? That have the same data type. It would make no sense, right, to try and paste together result sets that have completely different schemas, right? Where maybe in one of them, you're storing vegetables, and in some other place you're storing electrical supply, right? And you do queries, and they just don't match, right? Has columns such as power and voltage and amps, right? And where the other ones is vitamins and whatnot, right? So if you're trying to match two tables that just have no schema that are together, it would make no sense to try to put them together. So it would only make sense if somehow the columns, some columns might be similar, right? Maybe they all have SKUs, or maybe they all have a description, maybe they all have a cost per unit, right? So that those might make sense that you paste together, right? That you only grab those columns that make sense to group together, right? So yeah, you have to be careful there. So for instance, here we have employees in USA, and we might have employees in somewhere else in Canada or Europe. And so here we have we're taking both of them, Canada and employees from USA. And notice that there are some overlaps. Looks like Dole Stephen works in both offices, in Canada and in USA. And when we do that, we might want to drop any repetitions, right? So for instance, notice that Dole Stephen it's only shows once in there, but you can force that. Yeah, I know there are repetitions. Actually, I want them, right? And so by default it'll eliminate any repetitions. But if you insist, you can say that I want all of them, despite whether they are repetitions, right? Notice that we are assuming that both tables have name, employee name, right? That might not be the case. It could be that one of the tables calls them name, and the other table calls them employee name, right? But we know that the data is the same, right? That the content is the same. It's just a plain old string, okay? And even though they're named differently, we know that logically they mean the same thing, right? So we could make sure that if one of the tables has a field that we want to do the unions from stuff, that we could rename it, right? So if this one would say employee name, we could rename it saying as, right, and then rename it to something that is common to both, okay? So that you would get the right values.